Going to be graphing some basic inequalities, solving some inequalities, and hopefully you've seen some of these basic ones. X is greater than or equal to 0. I got to decide if it's going to be open or a closed dot, and this equals to sign underneath that greater than sign tells me that it's going to be a closed dot. Over here, I don't have that equals to. I'm going to have a open dot. So I've got x is greater than or equal to 0. I'm going to have a closed dot on top of 0. And if my pen worked better, it would be a closed circle right there. And every number that is greater than, every x that is greater than 0 will be shaded. So that would be over here to the right. Probably had a middle school teacher or something tell you that, whichever way this arrow points right there, then that's where it's going. So that arrow is pointing to the right. And that works if the x or the variable is on the left-hand side. So down here at the bottom, we're going to run into some problems with that. But for right now, that is true. Whichever way that arrow points, that's the way you're going to shade. This next one on the top right, x is less than 4. I'm going to have an open dot at 4 right there. And once again, it's pointing to the left. It means that all the numbers, all the x values that are less than 4, that would be all these numbers. Over here, all these numbers are less than 4. I could plug in -6 right there. Is -6 less than 4? Sure is. So I'm going to shade over there. Down here, I've got -3 is less than or equal to x. I always like rewriting these, so I got x and -3. And in that original problem, it's pointing to the -3, so I'm going to make sure my sign is still pointing to that -3. And then I can follow all my middle school rules in that -3 right here. I've got a closed dot because of that equals to sign under there. And I'm going to shade to the, wrong way, or shade to the right. I need all the numbers that are greater than or equal to -3. X is, I got to rewrite this one. So I got x and -5, and it's pointing to the x, so it's going to point that way. And it's going to be an open dot at -5 over here. And we need all those numbers, all those x values that are less than. I can also see that this, thing's pointing to the left. Since that variable's on the left, I can follow that rule. Up top, I've got just a basic equation, and, +8 plus 8, that would be 4x equals -12, divide by 4, divide by 4, I'd have x equals -3. And nobody does this, but if you did want to do this, you would plot it on the number line, and it would just be right here at -3, x equals -3. That's your answer. Got an equal sign. There it is, closed dot right there. Now down here, I have these inequalities. So I'm going to solve it the same exact way. I'm going to add 8. I'm going to get 4x is less than or equal to -12, treating that thing as if it were an equal sign. So now I've got x is less than or equal to -3. So those look exactly the same, except up top I had the equals to sign. Down on the bottom left, I've got the less than or equals to. So I got -3. Looks like I'm going to have a closed dot at -3. And all the numbers that are less than that. You would solve the same thing over here. You'd have an open dot, though, at -3. Something that's very important. When you multiply or divide both sides by a negative number, you have to flip the inequality. So when I'm given something like this, I'm going to solve it the same way. I'm going to subtract 1. That's -6x. It's greater than 18. Nothing's changed so far until I divide by this negative number right here. When I divide by that negative number, that's telling me I need to flip that sign. So now I've got an open dot at -3, and I'm going to shade this direction. Same thing on the right side. I'd add 5. It'd be -3x is less than or equal to, my equal to sign kind of went crazy there, then 18. And divide by -3, divide by -3, that's x is less than or equal. Whoa. When I divide by a negative number, I got to flip that sign. Almost forgot there. Don't forget like me. Got to flip that sign. So I got -6. That is over here. That's going to be a closed dot because I got that equals to underneath it. And since that variable's on the left side, I can see which way it's pointing. It's going to go that way. Up next, same kind of stuff here. Solving. A lot of times when you're given an equation that looks like this, we'd say, oh, put that over 1, let's cross multiply it. Make the butterfly, whatever. And that works with these, but sometimes I find with students that they're like, well, which one do I do the 28 on the left side, and which way does this go, and that kind of stuff. I find it easier just to say, hey, I'm dividing by 4. What's the opposite of dividing by 4? Let's multiply by 4 on both sides. And we did this with equations too. Those will cancel out. You're left with x greater than or equal to 28. Let's go down here and just write 28. And that would be an open dot. And we're going to shade this way. Next one, I'm going to multiply by 2 on both sides. Opposite of dividing by 2 is multiplying by 2. That'd be x. And I get negative 10 over here. Do I need to flip the sign? That's negative 10 over there. No, don't need to flip sign because I'm multiplying by 2. This is the number that I'm multiplying by. If that were negative 2, then I would do that, but it's a positive, so sign stays the same. I got negative 10 down here, and it looks like it's going to be a closed dot and going to be shading this way on that problem. Next, what am I multiplying by? Or what am I dividing by? So I'm dividing by x. Now I need to multiply both sides by x. X's will cancel. That'll leave me with 18 is greater than negative 3x. And when you divide by a negative right here, don't forget to flip the sign. That's negative 6. And, we could graph that from there. I think it's easier for you to see it when that x is on the left side. So right here, it's pointing to the negative 6. So I'm going to make sure it's pointing to the negative 6 again right there. So I got negative 6. That's going to be an open dot. And we're going to shade to the right. Next one, we're going to multiply by x. Multiply by x. Gets rid of those. I'm left with 30 is less than or equal to 5x. Divide by 5. Divide by 5. That's x. Do I need to flip the sign there? Nope. Divide by a positive number. So sign's going to stay the same. I am going to kind of turn that around, though, so that I can see which way to shade. Up there, it's pointing to the 6. I'm going to make sure I'm pointing to the 6 again. It's going to be a solid dot, and looks like it's going that way. Same kind of problem here. I mean, you're going to treat it as if it were one of those very first ones that we, showed you. Just distribute right here. It'd be 8 minus 4x is less than 8. Subtract 8. Subtract 8. It's negative 4x is less than 0. That's weird. Oh, gosh. Oh, gosh. What are we going to do? Divide by negative 4. Divide by negative 4. What happens when you divide by a negative sign? Got to flip the sign. 0 divided by anything is going to be 0. So I got to open dot at 0. And going to shade that direction. And you're going to do the same thing on the other side. All right, down here, I've got to, I'm dividing by 2 on the left side. Let's multiply by 2 on both sides. So those will end up canceling. That gives me x minus 8 is greater than 22. Add 8, that is x is greater than 30. Nothing too crazy there. Open dot, going that way. Do the same thing on the other side. So if you have a closed dot. Last one right here. Finding a common denominator and or multiplying through by, your least common multiple. I've got the smallest number that both 4 and 8 will go into would be 8. So when I distribute that 8 to both of these, I end up with 8 times x over 4 minus 8 times 6 over 8. And I'm going to multiply both sides. It gives me 24, I think. And, when you multiply these, it's like 8 over 1. So that's 8x over 4. I think that gives me 2x minus these 8s will cancel right there. This made 2. This is going to make 1. So that's minus 6 is less than or equal to 24. Let's add the 6 over. That would be 30 divided by 2. It's a positive number we're dividing by, so not going to flip it. And we get 15 right there. That's a closed dot, and we're going to shade this way. Next one, going to multiply by the smallest number that both 6 and 3 will go into. That would be 6. Multiply both sides of your inequality by 6. That would be 6. So distribute 6 times 4 over 6 minus 6 times x over 3 is greater than 6. These 6's cancel out. That's 4 minus, this makes 2x greater than 6. Let's subtract the 4 to the other side. That would be 2. But when I divide by -2, what do I got to remember to do? Flip the sign. Make sure you flip the sign. So I got -1 down here. It's going to be an open dot, and it's going to be less than over there.